Bora, great to see you.
Great to see you.
Welcome back to the show, and good to finally catch up with you. And I think you have such an amazing story. I want to make sure that people know who you are and get what you're working on and your thoughts out there, because it's impressive, and want to share your journey with the world. So
thank you.
Obviously, been dabbling in the Hollywood world for a while as a writer, producer, and actor, working on a ton of projects. You're wearing yourself thin, but you're making it through. So just wanted to catch up with you and just jump right in. So just talk to me about a couple things you're working on and share it with the world.
Okay. Yeah. So right now, I'm in the process of putting together 3 business plans, 2 of which are complete. They were for 2 feature films, and the third one is for my production company.
Okay. Which is?
Mindboggle Productions.
Mindboggle Productions. Yep. Great. Okay.
And when I tell my story, I'll tell how that all came to be.
Yeah. I know one of those projects you're working on right now is 32 Seconds from Sanity.
Yes.
Walk us through a little bit of what that's like, the story itself and things that you've learned on that journey.
Okay. Yep. So 32 Seconds from Sanity is the first feature film that I decided to produce. I came across some people over the course of the last several years, and they essentially wanted to teach me how to bring that into reality.
Okay.
Of course, I didn't understand what that meant, or the tribulations that I would face when that would come to be. But I decided to just go head on and take it all on anyway.
Yep.
And so back in 2015, I was invited to pitch that film to a venture capital group called the Ritz Group here in Atlanta.
Okay.
I didn't know what I was doing, but being a student of the theater, I improvised, and you could actually find it on YouTube. I think it's Bora Erjan Bora Erjan pitches to the Ritz Group.
Okay.
And I end up throwing papers everywhere, and all of these old investors just kind of looked with wide eyes,
lightened up their day a little bit.
Right, they're like, "Who is this guy? Where did he come from?" And I like it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And
so good reception.
Yeah, very good reception.
Okay.
In fact, they everybody afterward, they came up and wanted to shake my hand and meet me. And the whole premise of the pitch was that there were 3 different panelists, and each of them there were tax brokers, film tax brokers.
Yep.
But it was done in a Shark Tank type of style. So they lots of pressure.
Yeah.
Oh, extremely. I mean, I don't think that I had that much pressure even going on stage and performing in front of people in a theater.
Okay.
So there was definitely a lot of pressure. I mean, probably because it's only me, and it's are these people going to help my career, or are they not?
Am I going to make a fool of myself, man?
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, it's funny. I completely go off book from what I prepared, and I don't know. I was just rolling with it. And
I know you said you had gone through that process, and if we could talk a little bit more about 32 Seconds from Sanity, the context of that movie, or what it was going to be about, and then some of the things that you learned along that path of kind of going through the process.
Okay.
Yeah.
The film itself is a story. It's a romantic thriller.
Yep.
It's based with 9/11 as the backdrop.
Okay.
Where 9/11 is not the premise of the story. It is to show 2 people who were in this place at this atrocious time, and the way that their lives had been impacted. All in the while of one of those main characters just sort of uncovering and investigating his own life, his intentions, his direction for why he had chosen what he chose.
Okay.
From the people that read the story, it was also very well received. So with the pitch, they asked me to do it, and of course, not knowing any better, I said yes.
You didn't know what you didn't know.
No, indeed. And then what ended up happening is one of the investors said that they wanted to teach me about real business plans and how to actually talk to investors in a manner that which investors truly
great on the job training, so to speak.
Absolutely,
you made some great connections from that point.
Definitely.
and got some great intel into moving into the next pitch and the next business plan.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Moving forward, what ended up happening was last summer, I was invited to pitch again, and it went really well. Again, had no idea that there was a competition component to it, and I ended up winning like $2,400 in different various film services, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
I ended up leveraging that with some of my connections to now it seems like I'm working with them to build. So for example, like when I talk about my production company business plan, of course I'm incorporating the material that initial investor taught me how to do, but also I'm incorporating people like the distributors that in essence that have like connected with me along the way, just kind of like a puzzle piece, and I'm leveraging both pieces together to see that I'm an asset that's connecting both of them and play nice, and we can make nice things happen. And one of those guys who actually came up to me at the end of the day of that pitch, that second pitch, and he said, "I want to support you for whatever project that you have." At this point in time, 32 Seconds wasn't really going in the direction that I wanted it to go. I mean, ideally, the direction is, hey, I've got this film, I've got the plan. Then you connect with other people, says, okay, well, we can either put this much financing in it, or we can give you LOI so that you can get your talent, and then we can cross-reference that with distributors and put a speculative mark for what or how the film will perform in the various film markets. So international, domestic. International is really where you make your money back. And I could talk about that shortly.
Sure.
But anyway, so this guy wanted to support me, and at the time I was developing a story that tied into human trafficking. Of course, the backstory behind that, the title of that film, of course, is Howdy Neighbor.
Howdy Neighbor,
the backstory is that you don't really know who your neighbor truly is, especially as we continue to move forward in this digital age. And we become so infused with our own thoughts, our own desires, that everybody else just becomes a cog in a gear that has no relevance. And it's fine for people to face whatever they face, and as long as it's not my life, type of a mentality. And so moving forward, the guy loved the script, but then fell off the face of the planet.
Oh no!
Right. I always tell people that he went off to Africa on a safari and got eaten by a lion.
There you go. That could be a more interesting story.
Yeah, for sure.
Just not answering phone calls anymore.
Definitely. People say, "Did that really happen?" And then I just look at them with a smile. So
it's up to you to decide. So the plot or the storyline behind Howdy Neighbor is really interesting. It's more than just your typical, someone's down and out, doesn't know what to do based on, finances that are kind of encroaching on their life. I mean, they turn to really extreme measures to try to level up. So can you talk a little bit about how that looks?
Sure. So in the earlier versions of the story, what I wanted to do was show the woman who gets trafficked as being a person who is inadvertently involved with social media. So she's out running, she's just doing the FaceTime, showing her cleavage, just sexualizing herself on the social media space. And then you have the predator, who's this neighborly guy who everybody knows as the clown who could never do any harm. And it's funny because people are scared of clowns. But anyway, this
deceptive.
This super
John
deceptive.
Wayne Gacy. I mean, some of these people have used those disguises to be predatory.
Yeah, definitely.
Deflect.
And then through the social media space, he is able to track this woman, find out where she goes, when she's there, and actually put together her schedule and actually know when and how to catch her.
Oh my goodness,
But the problem with that is in a short film, which was aimed at being 15 pages at the time, that's a tall order, because all of a sudden now the message that I'm sending to the audience is, okay, if you sexualize yourself, you're going to get kidnapped. And that's not right. Because 9 times out of 10 you're not. Otherwise everybody would be kidnapped.
That's right.
And so we kind of restructured the story a little bit, the director and I, for capturing that same essence. And so what the story ended up turning into is that you have a troubled marriage, and that troubled marriage, which is extremely ridden by finances, the human trafficking element becomes the way out, a quick buck, if you will.
Yeah.
And as the story is unfolding, you see this harmony between the husband and wife, where the wife thinks that the husband is cheating, not understanding that he's doing something far, far worse.
Secret life.
Secret life.
Right, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's wearing on him. And as the show progresses, depending on the day of the storyline, you could see visually how draining it is.
Yeah, the toll it's taken on him.
Definitely.
It's incredible. I know I caught the trailer, and it's just beautifully done. Just the acting is there, and the story is there. I'm excited to see the full version. So, where is that now? I think you're in post.
We are in post. Yeah. So the music was composed. The sound design, a rough cut of the sound design was done. Now we're going to have it all mixed together and equalized, and then it'll be ready for the festival circuit.
And you're going to start marketing out in the festival circuit, domestic and international?
Mostly domestic.
Domestic first, okay.
All of the ones, this was a SAG project, and so all Academy qualifying festivals. So another preface to this is that one of my producers, or he started out as a co-producer who used to run Rabbit Bandini Productions, which is James Franco's company.
Yep.
And as it turned out, as our schedules would intersect, he just had to get pulled to some other projects, which is fine.
Sure.
But the goal was that we were going to take Howdy Neighbor to one of his friends. Her name is Mila.
Okay.
We'll give her last name.
It sounds familiar. We'll just leave the last name out.
and because her husband...
Big eyes? Does she have big eyes?
She has big eyes,
yeah.
for sure.
Funny.
Beautiful woman.
Yeah, funny.
Right.
She does,
Super funny. Well, she doesn't even try.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the best kind.
Yeah, definitely. So since her husband is really big in fighting human trafficking, the goal was, hey, like we can make this project and blow it out and really help expand the message of how important not being submissive or not being oblivious to this atrocity, especially being in Atlanta, where it's the #1 city.
It is, for most people that don't know. It is like the hub, the gateway, so to speak. It's the gateway to the South. There's so much. I guess it's one of the main places for human trafficking.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and so so that was the goal. And then one day, I had a conversation with someone in my life who's just said, why are you waiting for this investor who's off being eaten by a lion?
Yeah.
Why not just make it for no money? And I sat and I thought about it and thought about it and thought about it and got really angry and frustrated. And then I picked up the phone and I started making phone calls.
Good for you.
Then next thing I know I have like 30 people on my team. And it was really wild because I will pay to get the film in the festival circuit, and I will pay to feed people.
Sure.
Unfortunately, because of the circumstances, I didn't have enough money to pay people for the project. But being a person who holds that integrity of myself, I will always remember that with these people and my team.
Yeah.
And as my life moves forward, they're coming with me in tow, whether they realize it or not.
I think everybody has a beginning to where, depending on what your values are and what you hold dear, I mean, you always keep those people in the back of your mind, and you either take them with you on additional projects or you kind of recompense them for things they've done for you in the past. And so I know in your world, a lot of things, people, they'll jump on a project for notoriety, for fame, for the experience, and that's enough for a lot of people. But you take it to that next level of kind of wearing it on your heart, like these people help me, so I want to do whatever I can to help them in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was really wild because, like, for me, I've never taken a project. I mean, with the exception of like maybe something that's 2 minutes long or something, and taking it from zero, scratch, nothing to, hey, I've got this project that apparently people like, and I'm going to submit it to festivals. So it's the first time for me to do that. But it didn't even set until, I don't know, a couple weeks ago or something. But when we're on set, like, there were a few different occasions where people came up to me and they said, wow, this is the first time I feel like I'm on a Hollywood set.
Wow.
And
that's incredible.
It is incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible that it's either I'm extremely lucky or I don't realize what I truly do know and can make happen. And if
I think a lot of people that are humble and, they don't necessarily have that awareness in a good way of how good they actually are.
Right.
And I know that from dealing with you and knowing you for a good amount of time now, that's just how you operate. I mean, you have this amazing talent, this amazing ability, but it seems effortless and like you're not poking it in people's faces. Like, hey, I'm a badass, I can do this. You're just showing it through your work. Right. Which is super attractive to a lot of people, and people like, well, I would want to work with someone like that. Oh. It's a leader versus a manager mentality. Like, you want somebody that's going to be in the trenches with you, that knows what they're doing, that can help further your efforts in one way or another, versus someone who's just barking orders at you and pointing the finger, if you did something right or wrong. Right. It's just like in business.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Follow me and we'll win, I promise.
That's it. That's it. 100%. So you've learned a lot in these projects and these business plans that you've done with 32 Seconds and Howdy Neighbor, and you've talked a little bit with me off camera on things like the path that you've been down and the feelings that you've gained kind of through this. Can you walk a little bit through that?
Yeah. Okay, so last year my sister got married, and so I wanted to help my family as much as possible. I went through a series. I mean, everybody goes through tough times, so I'm not going to bother with talking about that or letting that be the focus. But I will say that a project that I got involved in was a documentary that ties into the Paralympics. Okay. And it just so happened to be that somehow one day I tweaked my hips, and I kid you not, my 6'4" brother-in-law, I call him my brother, had to pick me up and put me in bed, and I was in bed for a good 36 hours. I couldn't walk at all. It was.
Do you know what happened?
No, I don't. MRI showed nothing, and
it's even scarier.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And a chiropractor told me I probably had a little pinched nerve when I was doing a stretch because of my hip not being fully aligned. Okay. Anyway, while I was there, I got really involved. Like, I had this experience of mobility and how important it is and how we go about our regular life without even thinking about it. You wake up and you walk to the bathroom, wash your face, use the restroom, you make your food. You don't even think about these things. It's all on autopilot. And so anyway, when this mobility project came across my desk, like, I got really, really charged for it. I drew a connection for the team and for that team, and for product placement. And then next thing I know, I got cut out of the project, but never mind.
The cutthroat industry.
Right, indeed. You missed here. You're supposed to hit this spot. Right. Yeah. And so anyway, like, kind of reclused a little bit and go back to the drawing board, and it's like, okay,
reset.
Can't meet this guy in the safari, and I clearly can't.
You're gaining your independence at that point, because you can rely on other people to a degree, but if you can always rely on yourself, there's a difference there. There's a confidence there. There's a strength.
Absolutely. Yeah, I definitely agree. And you have to find it. Yeah. It does not truly find you.
You got to earn it.
You got to earn it. Absolutely. So anyway, that's led me into dealing with my I call him my director. He's been a friend of mine for over 10 years. Okay. When I was dealing with Howdy Neighbor and its creation, he was the one working with me every day, if not that other producer. Yep. And
what's your director's name?
Chicken Green.
Chicken Green.
Chicken Green.
Okay.
No C.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So he and I worked together with honing in the story that I wanted to tell, and at the time he was on board for a feature film that was led by a bunch of producers who didn't really know which way was up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so I would hear the different stories about things that were unfolding and try to be as supportive as possible. I mean, that's what you are for your friends, right?
Yep.
You listen to their words and their feelings, and then you want to give them, if they choose, something that can feed so that they can evolve or modify
some
the
sort of
situation.
support. Sometimes it's just an ear to listen, but then sometimes it's actionable advice
Definitely.
to be able to move forward from the event.
Right.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is we got to the point of talking about business plans.
Yep.
So at this point in time, I took 32 seconds from Sanity's business plan and I completely visualized it, which is, I mean, it looks really awesome. and I sent it to him, and he was blown away by it. And he's like, okay, well, a lot of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And then one day we're talking about it when I was sitting in traffic, and I just asked him, I said, do you want me to make the business plan? And he was like, oh, man, that'd be great.
Nice.
Nice. And so I did it, and everything was moving forward. And then we had a meeting that brought out a lot of opposing egos with perspectives that were not necessarily in alignment.
Sure.
And then it was concluded that everybody should depart.
Okay.
And
go their separate ways, yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
And in my case, I mean, it was the director is my person, you know?
Yeah.
He pulled me onto that. And if he walks away, then I walk away with him.
Sure.
Like that's
have each other's back, so to speak.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. And director is Chicken Green.
Chicken Green.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once he handled that project in the different capacities that needed to be handled, the film that was written by him.
Yeah.
He was originally hired to write a film, but that film that they wanted to tell and the film that he wanted to tell, he incorporated both worlds in a way. He has a very unique mind in his writing, and it shows in this one particular bank heist film called The Quiet Move.
Okay.
And it is like it's a bank heist film taken from the perspective of Thelma and Louise.
Awesome.
And it's unique. And anyway, the fallout between the two, he was able to manage it in a way to where he could retain the story that he wrote, and that project that they wanted, he would help them
satisfy other people,
right,
while staying true to what he wanted to do.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they could take that project, run away with it. We could take this project and run away with it.
That's great.
So now I essentially made the modifications to its business plan. It's about a $5 million film, action film. And then, again, one day that we're talking about it, he asked me if I thought it'd be wiser to produce a feature film that came at a lower budget.
Okay.
I said, okay, sure, you have my attention. He sent me the script. It was an awesome script. That's called Help Wanted.
Okay.
Help Wanted is like Friday meets Weekend at Bernie's.
Two amazing movies. Two movies that may or may not have had a big impact on my growing up.
All right.
So Friday and Weekend at Bernie's come together for Help Wanted, and that's a story where you're working in tandem for this.
Right. Right. And so I put together a business plan for that. All in the while of now we're at the point of the beginning of this year, and we're gearing up to produce Howdy Neighbor. Or I'm producing Howdy Neighbor. Everybody else is creating it with me.
Sure.
And I'm making the business plan for Help Wanted and for The Quiet Move.
So you got a few irons in the fire. A lot of creative going on. A lot of logistics and figuring things out. Where are you in the process with the premiere that you were going to do with?
So I'll get there.
Yeah. Okay.
So originally I was aiming for May.
Yep.
Then it became June.
Okay.
And then it became a recognition. I came to a place of recognizing. I speak 3 languages, and sometimes I cannot say the words. I don't know why.
Sure. There's a lot going on in there. Yeah. What are your languages do you speak?
English, Spanish, and Turkish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're from Turkey?
Well, I was born in Atlanta.
Okay.
Raised by Mexicans and Brazilians.
Okay.
When I wasn't in my Turkish.
So there's
home.
English and there's Spanish there.
Yeah, Spanish was the first language to come out.
Okay.
And Turkish home was, I mean, if I wasn't really out in the woods with the kids in the neighborhood,
Yeah.
I was, lost in my toys.
Yep.
Transformers, G.I. Joes, whatever.
Yep.
But at school, all my friends were from either Europe, Africa, South America.
So you had a plethora of different cultural influence,
Absolutely,
and language that you picked up, and I'm sure that's probably helped you. And sometimes it does confuse you. You're like, you have to try to pick from.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I feel super comfortable in an airport or on an airplane.
Yep.
But dating American women has been very hard.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge.
I stopped dating years ago. I'm happy. Yeah, I still date my wife, but I've stopped playing the field, so to speak.
Right.
So,
yeah, for sure.
So in the places we don't see. It's another project.
Right. So we're on, so we're on set with Howdy Neighbor.
Yep.
And one of our amazing team members, tells me about possibility for getting a project funded, someone who would invest in a feature film.
Yep.
So the director and I are Chicken. Chicken and I are talking about Help Wanted and how that could be our first big push into the feature film world.
Yep.
And but then one day she says, well, why don't you send me all the business plans that you have?
Oh, wow. Okay.
And make one for your company too.
Business plans in your world is it sounds like it's a pretty significant standard. Like you have to have a business plan for each film, or is this something unique that you're doing?
I think it's unique.
Okay.
Because according to Richie, Bandini, business plans are not as relevant as people tend to make them.
Right. They're big in my world. Like when creating companies and putting pen to paper and having something to show for your outline of your vision and your outline of production and your outline of growth.
Right.
I'm very familiar with this, so it's interesting to hear that it exists elsewhere. And if it doesn't, it's even more interesting because that's kind of your niche and that's how you can sell your project. Because now, even if it's the Hollywood, the film industry, it's still a business.
Right.
And so people want to see where the dollars and cents come from.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
So since I don't know any film investors per se, I'm essentially working to turn other investors into investing in film by taking the lessons that I've learned from the film markets, like AFM, American Film Market, which happens in November in Los Angeles. You'll find so many people in Atlanta do not know that. Learn it. Research it, go to it.
Okay.
I don't.
Are you going to go?
Oh, I'll always go.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Anyway, the models that I've learned from either sales agents or distributor or aggregator connections that I have out there have really changed the way that I look at content creation.
Okay.
So as I put together a plan, let's say Help Wanted, for example.
Yeah.
I'm going to reach out to my distributor connections and say, this is the story. Tell me where this is going to sell internationally.
Yep.
And who needs to be involved and to what capacity.
Okay.
Not dress out my whole cast, but give me something that I know can help you sell it. Because if they're selling it, then that means that I make my money to give back to the investor.
Yeah.
And then more. The goal is to obviously make money.
Profit.
Otherwise, it's not a business.
It's show business.
Show business.
Right.
Right.
The creative clashes with the archetypal business, running a company and making money.
Right.
And sometimes those two things collide, but it's smart on your end to be able to learn that process and almost hack the system in a way of finding out what fits and what doesn't.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why my parents used to take me to Showbiz instead of Chuck E. Cheese.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I learned it in the Gorilla.
There you go.
Yeah.
So, so now as it stands, a few business plans, few films that you're working on. Did we delve into places we don't see in terms of the concept and what you're doing in that film from acting and producing?
Not yet. So so in the process of, while we're on set of Howdy Neighbor,
yep.
The director looks at me and says, because we had previously talked about him producing, it's hard I can't do the actual movements because I'm sitting.
Sure.
But he gets really vocal about how I can be this actor or the character in the places.
Passionate, if you
will.
will.
Very passionate. Very passionate.
Yeah.
There's lots of passion on
sure.
that side. And so I say, okay, and I tell him that I want to read the script because I hadn't read the script. And I go home, I read it, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. So my company, Mindboggle Productions, is all about creating content that encourages to people to think a little bit more abstractly. And
Boggle
outside the
their
box.
mind.
Boggle their mind.
Yeah.
Grow as a person.
Yeah.
And figure out where you fit and take that and grow. It's okay to make the mistake.
Catalyst for change.
Catalyst.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or thought, or just thinking about something differently.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so, so I'm like, wow, this story is right up my alley. It deals with a guy who has overdosed from heroin, and but you don't acknowledge it in the beginning because you don't know until the very end about the life lessons that he had made that led him to that point of overdosing and living in this alternate world. And so as everything was coming together, some things happened to various members of my team, and I decided to postpone the actual shoot.
Okay. Production was halted.
Yeah,
Yep.
production was halted for sure, because I cannot, if everybody is not as engaged as they would, because they've got more realistic things, health conditions or
Sure.
family's health, life and death
So you want them at
situations.
full strength for them
Absolutely.
and for you. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I do not want to give, I don't want to put a person in a position of saying I have to choose between something I love and something that I love.
Right.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
And because it's a really tough place to be. And so I started focusing more on the business plans. I finished 2 out of 3. And then also at the same time, I'm developing a horror thriller film.
I haven't heard about that yet. That's
You have
news
that.
to me.
That is.
Is that something we can touch on a little bit? Like the concept?
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's about a group of friends, and there are 3 groups of friends, and they're all in relationships. You've got a straight couple, an interracial gay couple, and then another couple, which is another race.
Sure.
And then they are all addicted to technology to
Okay.
the various capacities. One of them is an influencer. He just talks trash. He trolls people. He's got a whole social following from it. Another one is addicted to work. One is in music. One does stocks. They all have their own little different thing.
Yeah.
And then finally, one day, one of the characters, the main character, it's a woman lead, one of the wives, she says, it's time for us to go on a trip.
Okay.
And there's no technology on the trip.
Kind of a digital download.
Digital download.
Yep,
Yeah,
okay.
for sure. Well, her husband makes the plans. He's the one who with the work. He's the workaholic. He finds the first place that he can find. Doesn't pay a lot of attention to it, and it ends up being a smart house.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Well, then what ends up happening is that while they're in the smart house, hackers come in and turn it into a snuff house.
Okay.
And now it's about their survival.
It's incredible. It speaks to today's day and age, and the ever-present fear of technology taking over.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've had conversations in the past after I watched an episode of Joe Rogan where Elon Musk was the guest, and he made it very clear that he thinks that AI has gone too far and it could be the detriment to the human race. And I went on pretty much a whole mindset shift for like a good month after that, concerned about our future with AI. But it's really true that some of that is possible. To what degree, we don't know.
Right.
But the technology we create can potentially own us in certain ways, and even worse in this situation for this storyline, could cause harm,
Definitely.
kill you.
And especially when humans become desensitized, as we all have already become.
Yep.
Then what?
You can't live without this. I mean, we're basically cyborgs. We have to have that around 24/7.
Definitely.
It's an extension of technology that we're basically always with us. So you're in the creative process with that. Are you getting to the point where you're starting to identify talent, location, any of that? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
We're so still in development stage. The story's ironed out, but we're in the process of putting all the beats in the order that it needs to be in order to flow with the intensity that we want.
Yep.
And so it should be ready. It'll be ready shortly.
Okay.
I can't give a specific date, but yeah.
It's in process.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
A lot of great content. I know that's part of Mind Boggle and getting people to think differently. A lot of great things that you're working on right now. What else do you have going on in your world with the film industry? Anything you're working on, working towards? Anything we haven't covered yet?
So, after I'm done with the business plan for Mind Boggle Productions, I mean, I'll have this script probably. I mean, it'll be soon, so I'll work on putting together a business plan for that.
Yep.
That really is maybe a 3-location shoot.
Okay.
And with horror films, you have the benefit of not necessarily having to hire the most known talent.
I've noticed that most horror
Yeah.
movies don't have like super A-listers. Sometimes they may
Right.
have one or two here and there, but for the most part, it's not. So is it just because of the type of movie it is, where it's horror? It could be gory slasher mystery kind of thing, where the talent isn't attracted, or is it just a function of it's kind of a stepping stone for these? Like, why is it that
I think it's the audiences.
It is it?
The
Okay.
audiences don't care. They want horror, and they want it, and they want it.
They don't have to see, or maybe don't want to see their favorite actor get the axe, but they may with other actors.
I don't know if. I almost feel like I could see it more as a rite of passage
Sure,
for an actor
sure.
than the audience saying, "Oh, I don't want to see that character die."
Yep.
You look at a lot of stars that started in films that are horror. Johnny Depp,
Jamie Lee Curtis
Jamie Lee Curtis,
of Halloween, and her
Yeah.
mother before her.
Kevin Bacon.
Yep. Incredible.
Yeah.
I know. I don't remember the name of the movie. I think it was a redo of what's the one with the guy that loses his hand and he gets the chainsaw. Evil Dead. So Evil Dead, I think, was redone, and it was Chris Hemsworth, even though he was pretty big,
Yeah.
and he's Thor in Avengers,
Right.
and he's about as
Yeah.
big as it gets, right? He was in that movie too. So it's interesting to see some of these people sprinkled through.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Which one? Which Evil?
There's an Evil Dead, I want to say maybe 2015 or 16.
Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
I'm pretty sure it's that one. It's Chris Hemsworth, and it was strange to see him in that movie because
Yeah.
I think he had already kind of arrived
Yeah.
at that point.
Right.
So it's fun to see these people kind of jumping around and doing different things. But
definitely.
some of the biggest actors have gone through that rite of passage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, as long as the content has a market, then and it sticks to the mind boggle method of growing the mind. Let's make it.
You'll be
happen.
interested in it.
Yeah, definitely.
So in terms of growing the mind, there's obviously a lot of self-improvement, development, growth that starts with you, and then you can share that with the world and maybe potentially go coincide on that journey with other people.
Yeah.
I know that you're into a couple different things right now that are helping be a catalyst for those things.
Right.
So in that vein of self-improvement, development, your ethos, the company, Mind Boggle Productions,
Yeah.
creating change for the better. I know you're big into a couple different books that you're reading right now.
Right.
If you want to touch on the first one, your best year ever,
Yes.
what that's done for you, how you received it, how it found you,
Okay.
and some of the things you've picked up from it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your best year ever. It was given to me as a gift. The way that I've received it as book wise, has just been flabbergasted in the way of how I used to look at life, because it's brought to my attention how not to look at things from the perspective of lack or what's another term?
How about looking at things that are being abundant, like having abundance?
Sure,
Yeah.
and not victim like a victim like mindset.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of accountability within that book that I think that is very pertinent. It was very pertinent for my life, and I
Sure.
think that like they say in college, if you have a question, you should ask it because
Yep.
chances are someone else has like questions
That's
too.
right. People are afraid to speak up.
Right.
Yep.
So I think if I were to recommend that book, I mean I would do so wholeheartedly.
Michael Horn? Michael
Hyatt.
Okay. That's okay. Yeah, we could put it in the
Yeah.
show notes. Yeah.
And he's got a whole series of books. He's a speaker
Yep.
about
Thought leader on
self-improvement.
this topic.
Right.
Does keynoting and things like that.
That's
Talks
awesome.
at events.
Yeah.
And then the second one you mentioned was The Artist's Way. The
Yeah.
Artist's Way is another book
Right.
that's helping you with journaling and being mindful.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's really allowed me to connect with my inner dialogue with things that have been harder to acknowledge.
Sure.
Go through the process of finding what it means to forgive and coming and allowing that forgiveness to take over and being more of the guide by finding appreciation for how different struggles have helped improve life.
Yep.
That's been huge because the last several years it's been rough, one thing after another. But the inner dialogue that the struggle has manifested is not conducive to helping. But once you sit down and look at how those things could be helpful or how they have helped,
yep.
then things shift. And as Wayne Dyer says,
Dr. Wayne Dyer, yeah.
Dr. Wayne Dyer. I always call him Uncle Wayne.
Uncle Wayne.
Change your focus, and the things that you focus on will change.
Yep.
And it's very. I can honestly say that that's been my reality.
It's a habit that a lot of successful people are into. It helps you become mindful.
Right.
There's different philosophies out there where something as simple as pouring a cup of tea or archery, like just being in the moment, being mindful of only that thing, will create so much strength of mind. And if you could have a routine in your day where maybe when you wake up before you do anything else, kind of let it, and the actual art of, or the physical way of writing it versus typing it or putting it electronic, there's so much to those little processes that some of the most successful people that I've come across, that I've studied and that I've listened to from podcasts and things like that and audiobooks, they're into journaling at some level. So I think that you're onto something there. I think that it's helpful for you to gain control of your thoughts, your mind, and maybe when you have a great idea, you can put it down, pen to paper, and then if you want to do something creative later in a movie or something in life that you have to take care of on a personal note, you don't forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just listening to a talk that said where they were asking a guy, and I can't remember his name at the moment, but he said, when somebody asks me something that requires a lot of thought, I don't know how I feel until I write it down.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan, he says whenever you have a really tough decision to make, or let's say you get angry and you want to lose your attitude and let someone know about it, give it a night. Think about it. And he says almost 10 times out of 10 that the next morning he would have never responded the way he thought he was going to respond the day before.
Right.
Meaning a lot more thoughtful, a lot kinder, and a lot of times you let things go. So I think that this is part of that process where if you can let things flow out, you can kind of see them and be like, maybe I don't want to do that.
Right.
Or maybe I should do that. But at least you have that buffer before the floodgates open up and emotions just start flying out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a smart way to do it. And then the other thing I know that you're into, I'm big into fitness and health, kind of a biohacker and trying to improve my life every day is yoga.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about what you've been doing for yoga and the kind of yoga you're doing. Are you doing like the full body, like super sweating it out, like really martial art against yourself kind of yoga, or?
So I took a free week at a yoga studio here in Atlanta, and so far all of the classes that I've been to have been hot yoga.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, so you are sweating it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've never sweated this much in my entire life.
Yep.
I mean, just where it's just drenched.
Is this your first experience with yoga?
No, I've done yoga. I tend to do yoga like in the warmer months outside in the park.
Yeah, get some sun.
Sun. Yeah, indeed. And because I lift weights and I ride my bike, I never really consider just going to a yoga studio.
It's a great counterbalance.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It's just they are really pricey at times.
For sure. Yeah. It's something that's in our society is it's marketed pretty heavy now, and people are really into it. So people are taking advantage of it on the business side, and we pay for it.
Right.
Yeah. So you mentioned biking. I didn't know that. So are you doing
road biking?
Road biking. Okay.
Yeah.
For distance, for time, just pleasure.
Fun, all of the above. I mean, I like to go fast.
Yeah.
So I guess by that stretch would be low.
Sure.
Low. I mean, quick time. But
you're pedaling fast, furious. So it's interesting you bring that up. So part of my journey, I've had a newfound realization. I have a new talent, and it's running. And I always consider myself not a runner because my mind was somewhat weak in terms of having to put out the effort or thinking it was boring or not being into it. But in my fitness journey, I've come to pretty much this year, January 2019, of really falling in love with running. And I've gone from sucking wind, running 2 or 3 miles, and feeling like I had good cardio because I could jump rope for an hour and a half, but it's a different kind of cardio and it's a different kind of breathing, to where that was in January. And now I just finished my first 15K, a few months later. And in doing that, I'm realizing that I can run pretty well. Now my competitive and evolving mind is thinking, well, I'm going to do a triathlon.
Okay.
And so the biking component of it is what made me think of that.
Yeah.
And then swimming as well. And so the end of 2020, so about a year and a little more than half from now, I put my back against the wall and I want to do my first triathlon.
Cool.
So we're going to have to get on the bikes together. You're gonna you have to show me a
Yeah,
couple.
absolutely.
I know nothing of bikes except for when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And that was a long time ago.
I wish I had known this sooner because Performance just had a big.
Oh no,
big
they had a sale.
on bikes,
Oh my
huge sale.
goodness. So we'll have to talk about this off air, but I'm looking at, should I get like a bike for speed or should I get like a mountain bike because I want to go through some trails? But yeah.
I think, so trail riding is a completely different type of riding than triathlons. I think triathlon bikes are
Lightweight and fast.
lightweight and fast for sure, but I don't know if they're with gears or not. I can't remember.
I don't know
right
either.
now.
Yeah.
But I mean, we could definitely go look
You'll be
together.
my muse.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you boggle my mind.
Go ride as well, for sure.
That's great. Now, is there anything that you want to talk to the audience about in terms of that we didn't cover, or even to get in touch with you and to find you for any project you're working on, if they want to invest in any projects you're working on, to partner, any of that stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Mindboggle Productions is the name of my company. My name is Bora Ercan, spelled E-R-C-A-N. You can find me on Facebook, Bora Bora, or on Instagram as Bora Bora the Mindboggler. I also have an Instagram for Mindboggle Productions, which is Mindboggle Productions, LLC.
Nice.
Email, we've got onepersoncanmakeadifference@gmail.com. That's one, all written out, O-N-E. And currently pulled my website down because I didn't want the website to detract from what's being rebuilt and reestablished. So it is in the works, but it's just under a few other priorities. Currently would love to talk to people about who are interested in financing or producing content, co-producing content, hiring my team to produce your content. We have a variety of capacities that we could incorporate and have discussions about how we can get your project or our project to market, and how the strategy to recoup the investment and then make profit after that, internationally and domestically.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Well, I'm Jesse Tedisco. This is Bora Bora the Mindboggler. Thank you so much for your time. We'll catch you on next week's episode. Take care.
Thank you.